So hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is about beauty claims for supplements and perceiving the benefits. So before I get started, we are recording today's webinar and I will be sending out the recording at the end. There'll also be the chance for a Q&A. So if you've got any questions as we go through, just feel free to put them in the Q&A box or in the chat box. Feel free to share things with other participants, keep it interactive if you like, and we'll go towards those at the end of the session. So obviously today's session is all about beauty supplements in particular, and I've called it perceiving the benefits because a lot of the clients we work with will obviously work with beauty supplements, and they'll have lots of things like nutritional claims that they're using on their product. But there really comes to a point when you're looking at things, particularly like supplements, where we want to make sure the consumer can actually perceive all those benefits that we're hoping to get, because they usually stem from an ingredient. But right, what happens when you kind of combine all those ingredients together and then people are using it for a period of time? Is it actually having the effects that we want it to have? So that's really what we're looking at here. We also commissioned some market research, which is what I'm going to take you through today from the consumer's point of view, because again, I think it's really important that instead of just kind of getting tunnel vision in our product development and everything like that, we need to actually hear what our consumers want and what they're expecting out of products and marketing to make sure we can have some really successful product launches and campaigns. So the kind of rundown for today's webinar: we're looking at an overview of the beauty supplements industry very briefly, just to get us all on the same page in terms of why this is an important subject and why we're seeing such an increase. We'll be looking at those consumer insights. I'll be pulling those out kind of throughout the webinar, because obviously they're kind of lots of different insights we've got there that I want to share with you. I'll be looking at some global regulations for advertising, because as well as thinking about what the consumer wants to hear and communicating that to them, we need to make sure that we're actually following things compliantly and our adverts are compliant. And as such, we'll look at claim substantiation as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Regulatory Director at Ayton Global Research. So we're specialists in consumer research, and therefore we usually substantiate perception claims, which is why beauty supplements is very much up our alley, because a lot of it is about perception. So I've worked there for many, many years, and I'm the kind of go-to person if you've got any studies coming up that you want some advice on, if you've got any claims you want to make. That is what I help people do, is to review the kind of claims and the strategy they want to take with their marketing, and make sure I can help you in terms of the studies that you need and the kind of evidence you need to support those claims as well. So to give us that overview of that supplements market, so it really is something that is seeing a huge growth over the last few years. And generally, it's kind of these smaller brands have been coming onto the market. So there's new companies and products that are leading some growth at a significant pace. But also the major players in the game that have always been doing these kinds of products are picking up on that as well. So it's one of those real kind of product categories that we're seeing come out at all angles, where there's lots of indie brands coming out and producing beauty supplements, but also then the kind of legacy brands are still keeping up on that train going as well. So it really has got some huge growth going on. Why is it growing? Well, there's a general kind of awareness that's rising with health benefits associated with beauty. That whole thing is, beauty from the inside out. That has been a huge kind of consumer mindset change that's happened over the last few years. Whereas it used to be kind of like, what can we put on our skin to make sure we look younger? It's actually about having a whole holistic approach to beauty. And that's where the supplements have really come in. And also, people have got more care about looking good, things like social media. People are more concerned with physical appearance. So again, it's just that whole kind of industry is changing, the beauty industry, and supplements are a part of that. It's also kind of been helping that, obviously, it's also been helped by the fact that there are more sales channels. And I think we all know that COVID actually has had a huge spur for online sales. Supplements are one of those things you really see benefit from this, because there's things like a lot of influencers, a lot of celebrities are really kind of advertising these types of products. So it really benefits from online sales. And it also, of course, helps globally being able to purchase things online. There are some kind of things that are slowing down the growth in certain regions. So things like the high cost of beauty supplements, you can get lower cost things, but when we're talking about those kinds of supplements that you see on social media or, you know, on celebrities, they do tend to have a higher price mark. So if people aren't really using them currently, it is sort of a big investment to look at. And also there's just less penetration in some regions. So it hasn't quite reached the whole of the globe necessarily. So it's definitely sort of the kind of more, as you can see, so I put this graph up here, which really helps support what I'm saying. By geography, what the penetration is in the market for beauty supplements, you can see North America and Europe are really at the top. And then we've got Asia Pacific and rest of the world. So, you know, you can see that there's obviously places that are missing there that don't necessarily have that kind of penetration for beauty supplements. You know, Africa's not on that list at all as a kind of main market there. So you can kind of see where it's not picking up on as much, but certainly North America and Europe have got huge growths as well. You can also see in that graph, which is quite nice, the type of form that's most popular, the application, skin, hair, nails. I think these are all not surprising at all in terms of what you see on claims on beauty supplements as well, and the key players as well there. So that's really the overview of what we're looking at. Why is it growing, and what kind of things to be aware of as well. So that's what we're being told by, obviously there's lots of market research going on about the actual industry, but then we go, well, what's actually driving these people on a more kind of qualitative level? So we conducted a market research study that is a bit more qualitative in the fact that it's a smaller consumer group, and we asked them some really detailed questions about their supplement usage, particularly of beauty supplements. So we asked a total of 220 people that regularly use beauty supplements, some questions. So as you can see, we left it open to males and females. The majority of our panel was female, which is unsurprising. Whenever it comes to beauty products, there is still a huge weight, especially in terms of people who are signed up to test free products, which is what, you know, our main consumer database is. They're still very much weighted towards females. And in terms of age range as well, the main age range we're looking at is kind of the people in their 30s, but we do have a spread of other age ranges as well. So the first thing I wanted to ask them is why they take supplements in particular, to give us some other data as well as beauty. Now, unsurprisingly, the overwhelming majority is beauty supplements, but beauty appearance, sorry. But that's because we were recruiting people that purchase beauty supplements. So it wasn't surprising in terms of a find there. But what we did want to find out is what the other reasons are that people might want to use them as well. So health maintenance is a big one. Self-optimization sounds like a complicated way of saying it. Because these are taken from free text answers, this is our sentiment analysis. So people that want to say, you know, they say, I want to be my best self. So that's what we kind of classify as self-optimization. People that have dietary deficiencies, or maybe think they do, there's another sort of large part of supplements there. People that want an energy increase and to boost immunity. So that's the thing when we're looking at supplements. It's never just about beauty. It really is truly health and beauty. But it's always good to keep that in mind, because people will always, as I said, they want to be healthier. And in doing so, that should make them more beautiful, right? So then we talked about what motivates people to take beauty supplements in particular. So that's our overall supplements. The main reasons, kind of as what we saw in the market research, it's very much the same. Healthy skin, healthy hair, and stronger nails actually tends to be the main reasons. So again, if you've got healthy skin, if you've got healthy hair, you are going to look better, because that's kind of the overall, you know, that's the epitome of beauty, right? It's the visualization of health. So that's really what we're looking at. And then again, maintenance of these things is why people might then continue to do it, to take the supplements. Anti-aging, so anything that can make them look younger, unsurprisingly. It still hasn't quite changed. It's been this way for many years, but generally that's what people want, is to look younger. And hair growth as well is quite far up there as well. So really, when we're talking about all these things, this is when we start to see what claims are, right? So everything that's been put here is then a claim in a product. So healthy skin, healthy hair, stronger nails, these are all claims if we're going to put them onto our supplement. So what is an advertising claim? Sounds really straightforward, but I always like to go over this to make sure we're all on the same page. So it's anything that's used to market your product, and it can appear anywhere in the public domain, whether that's on your packs, on TV, on social media, wherever you're saying about the benefits of your product and describing the effects of it. And if you're saying that in the public domain, that is an advertising claim. The reason we use them is to help people choose the product. So if people want healthy hair, skin, and nails, we need to make sure that we've got that on our product so they know, okay, that's what I want, so I can choose this product. But they should also help you stand out in a crowded market. So it's all very well and good saying that, but if every single supplement is saying the same thing, you need to find a way to think about how you can then make that stand out, right? So that's what we're trying to do with an advertising claim, is take it that kind of step further as well. And again, this is where perception is really good, because then you go, okay, we've asked them if they've got healthy skin, hair, and nails, but what else can we ask them about what they can perceive, and how healthy is their skin? How healthy is their hair? How great does it look? And that's what we're trying to do with making it stand out. And then again, it should make you look better than your competition, because in terms of standing out, you should also be looking better, not just standing out for the wrong reasons. So that's really what our advertising claims are aiming to do. How is it regulated? So again, just to give us all the overview of how these advertising claims are regulated. Now, beauty supplements, to be fair, are one of those product categories that kind of sits within this like regulatory limbo, because it's not cosmetic, but it is a food. And as such, there are quite strong, well, it's quite strict food regulations generally worldwide. I mean, I'm going to talk mainly about EU and UK because that's what I'm most familiar with. But there are really strict things about what you're allowed to say about a food product. So it's really important that you're following those guidelines. But obviously, if you're making a claim about a beauty benefit, that's not a nutritional claim. It doesn't come under that same bracket, but it's not a cosmetic either. So what you really need to be thinking of and being really wary of is what the advertising standards are saying in that country that you're selling. So instead of looking at your food regulation, well, obviously look at that as well, but instead of concentrating on the claim side of that, do look at the advertising standards in the country that you are selling in. So when I'm saying look at the advertising standards, it tends to fall under ad self-regulation. So there'll be an organization in each country that will, well, generally it's self-regulation, which is why I'm using this as an example, where you kind of need to know what the code of conduct is and follow that yourself to make sure that your ads are compliant. So they're not going to police it for you. They're not going to review all your adverts. You need to make sure that you're following those rules. How are they kind of policed as such? It's basically policed by the public. So either your competitors or your consumers might complain about your product if they don't think that your claims are substantiated or misleading. So it's really important to make sure that you're aware of those codes of conduct, because you can essentially, the very least is you can have your adverts removed. And in certain countries, it can be things like fines. If you go down this sort of way of the states, it can be lawsuits. So you need to be really conscious that you are aware of what those are. So as I said, it can be a bit of feel like a regulatory limbo, but I can assure you now there is some really good information from these advertising standards. They tend to be very helpful, especially in the UK, to say what you need if you're unsure, if you're saying certain claims about your product that don't necessarily fit into the bracket of a food and might go into that beauty area. Make sure that you're aware of what those are and essentially make sure you've got some evidence behind your claims. So that's kind of our regulatory side. We've made sure we got our evidence and everything. Now, what makes people want to purchase a supplement? So we know what kind of claims they're looking for, what kind of benefits, but then what are they looking for when they're looking at adverts to purchase it? So customer reviews are really, really high up in everyone's kind of opinion. And this actually tends to be the same. We've done a lot of these studies for lots of different product categories, and customer reviews tends to be a really huge kind of part of that process. I think it's to do as well with making brands legitimate. So it's not just about whether your product works, but if there's lots of customer reviews, people know that it's not a scam, or they're not going to get kind of ripped off, because there's lots of real people that have used it and had the same benefits. And this is where consumer perception, I think, is really important, because it's showing that people have actually used it and they've actually had the benefits. So being able to quote consumer research in your advertising is very similar to having customer reviews. And in fact, you can get testimonials from your research as well. So it's really important to kind of keep that in mind. Having scientifically studied kind of ingredients and products is obviously really important, and no more sort of no less than with supplements, and if anything more with supplements. I worded that really badly, because obviously we want to prove that the nutritional benefits have got some kind of data behind it that's going to prove it, right? So having scientific evidence and results and information is really going to legitimize your product as well. Clinical study evidence is really high up there, so it's really important to make sure, again, quite sciencey, we're looking at with consumer with supplements. Sorry. And I think this is quite common with supplements as well. So what we'll see is ingredients tend to have clinical evidence behind them, right? So a lot of the products that we test, supplements, they'll have all of this clinical research about what these ingredients can do, and then we use the consumer study to back that up and show the perception. So I think it's really one of those particular categories, again, where you tend to see a lot of evidence, and it's very clear the consumers are hungry for it. We also have things like good value. I think that's really important. People don't want to, again, be ripped off. They want to see these really high price points, but not see any benefits. Seeing the research results of the benefits in the advertising is really important. So not just saying what the claims are, but showing what that evidence is. Before and after photos kind of go down well, and kind of a little bit smaller amount, but still kind of on our list, is some more detailed information about each product and real customer testimonial videos, which is what you kind of see on social media a lot as well. So in terms of what stands out, again, we're also looking at things like proven results, hugely important. Again, that's really at the top of the list. They want to see what the results are of those products. A description of the benefits, so a bit more detail about what those benefits are. Customer reviews, again, testimonials. Established brands are always going to be quite high up on the list. And then people also still really go with referrals from friends and family. And again, that's something we always see quite high up. So I think the more information you can have on your products, that makes it feel like a real consumer is using the product, they've had the right benefits, and you're communicating that is really the kind of way to go, particularly with supplements. But proven results. So how do we prove these results? And this one, I'm going to take you through a bit of a case study to give you some more information about how we can actually substantiate these claims, so you can use it in your advertising. So as I've mentioned a few times, consumer perception is kind of consumer studies and consumer perception is a huge part of supplements. I really can't press the point enough, because as I said, there's always lots of science behind them, but actually showing the results, and it's something I think, because we've tested so many, I really have seen a range. I've seen some brands that are very highly price pointed, that have gone a very sort of strong on the claims, and not necessarily had the benefits they wanted to see, or not necessarily kind of given themselves the time to test it. So they might be like, we're going to test it for a month and we're going to hope the results happen, and they just don't get the results they need. And it's like, well, they need to test it for longer. You need more people to test it. And then I've seen other brands that have, a very kind of established manufacturers that really care about the formulation and that really want to get some good test results and have really tested it properly and really thought about what those benefits are. And then we've seen some really amazing results. So I think it's to me, it's really important to get this feedback from the consumers and really listen to it instead of going, oh, they've not said they can see an effect and they're wrong. It goes, well, actually most of them said they just want to use it for longer to see what those benefits are. So it's really listening to them and making sure we can get some good data from it. So we generally run these as in-home user studies. So obviously sending out the product to people to test at home, and they answer online questionnaires and maybe upload selfies and things like that. The good thing about this is it reflects the actual conditions of the product in use. So if your consumers are to purchase your supplements and to take it every day, they're going to get the same effects as the people have in the study. And that's really what we want to replicate, because as we mentioned earlier, with advertising standards, it can be done on a complaints basis. So if your data is going to represent exactly what your consumers are going to do, you're much less likely to kind of get any scrutiny against the results that people are getting. And you may need some additional evidence. And I think I mentioned this, especially with things like supplements, you tend to have clinical evidence as well, but on the ingredients, and then a consumer study on the final product. It's about having a good body of evidence so that you can be very confident in the claims that you're making. So what do these actually look like? These are in-home consumer studies. I can take you through a kind of case study here to give you some more information. So the one I want to talk about is from a contract manufacturer that we conducted the study for, and it's a plant source collagen supplement. So they wanted to look at the marketing claims for the beauty supplement, but also to assess the efficacy and make sure it's actually working. And the kind of claims we were looking at were skin hydration and radiance, anti-aging, and improvement to hair and nails. So funny enough, everything that our consumers wanted to see in our, our research, market research is really what, again, they were looking for in this study. So quite common for supplements. What were the panel? So we looked at female volunteers, 35 to 75 years old. They had to have a dull complexion, fine lines and wrinkles, dark circles under the eyes, and spots and blemishes. All very common skin problems, especially for this age range, that we obviously want to look at the supplements having an improvement on. They had to take 2 capsules every day. We did some online questionnaires for this, but we also did a photo upload so we could visualize the improvement, and also so can the consumer, because they kind of have that chance to step back, take a photo of themselves and really see if they can see the difference in their kind of journey through these products. So we had obviously a before photo, after 4 weeks and after 8 weeks. So it's a 2-month study in total. There to ingest the product, and obviously we had to make sure that they didn't take too much of them or anything like that, because we don't want them to get ill essentially. So once we sent out the products and they've answered these questionnaires, what was our results looking like? So that's again really badly worded. What were the results looking like? So we have this table that I've taken from our report. So you get a very detailed report, but at the end we have a very simple summary of what people rated the product, how people rated the product. So I've just taken a few claims out of that questionnaire to give us some examples here. So on the left, we've got our questions or our claims that people agreed or disagreed with, the number of people that had a satisfied or not satisfied result, and the percentage of people that were satisfied or not satisfied. This is really helpful because, again, when we're looking at our marketing, A, it lets us know, have we got a majority of people agree with those claims? And then B, if we do, what will we say in our marketing? So in this case, we can say 76% of people said their skin felt more hydrated, 72% said their skin looked more radiant, 74% said their skin looked healthier, and 74% also said that the supplements had improved the overall condition of their nails. So I just wanted to drag out a few claims there, just so you can see what kind of claims we're able to substantiate with this. So overall, really happy because we've managed to get those claims that they were looking for, and they've managed to assess that the products are being perceived and that there are these perceivable differences. The kind of legislation behind the study we did as well. So I was saying before about advertising standards, having the codes, and you can go there for advice. Well, the ASA in the UK have given out some advice about beauty supplements in particular. And this is what I was saying before about the food, the food regulations, beauty regulations, where does it fit into? So they've given some really helpful advice here to say that claims not caught by food rules still need to be supported by scientific evidence. Rule 12.1 states that substantiation will be assessed on the basis of the available scientific knowledge, and it states that marketers should provide trials conducted on people only if relevant. So what does that mean? Well, a beauty claim would still need to be supported with suitable evidence proving the efficacy of the product. So we need to make sure that if there is a claim on your product that should be perceived by consumers, like a beauty claim, it needs to be supported by evidence. So once we've kind of got all of our claims together, we've got our substantiation. Where do people want to see these advertising claims in their marketing? So on this one, we've asked where would they like to see study results when shopping for supplements? Most people have said brand website. A lot of people have said articles, which is quite interesting because it means that you can really use this chance to get into things like magazines and give you, as well as saying more data, the better, all of this body of evidence, get into articles. It makes you look so strong as a brand if you're really putting this out there. Obviously, we want to see it in physical packaging. I found it quite interesting that social media was much lower down the list. So actually, obviously, social media is still important. But people are more interested in seeing it on the packaging and on the website. Things like apps for supplements and healthy living as well. And lastly, TV adverts. I think that kind of comes down the list because I don't think people watch TV the same way they used to. I know I certainly don't. It's sort of more things like streaming apps. So I think TV is really good. But actually, if you are looking at really getting your advertising out there for supplements, the brand website is really where it's at. So how do we then do this? What kind of things can we look at here? So I've got a couple of brands just to show as examples. So Simone Thomas Wellness has got a kind of supplement range. And there's some examples here on her website where she's put a kind of consumer-based blind study over a 3-month period. What are the results there? So 85% said their hair felt stronger, 82% said their hair looked more shiny, and 82% said it maintained the condition of their hair. And then on the website as well, as they kind of got this big splash to say 85% agreed it made their hair feel stronger. So there's some really nice ways of putting claims there. Another brand, Lumity Life. So they conducted a placebo-controlled double-blind clinical study on their supplements. And the kind of claims they got was 92% noticed skin with fewer lines and wrinkles, and increased hydration and glossy hair and strong nails. Lots of claims for beauty there. Another beauty claim there is noticed a significant improvement in skin hydration, 76%. So again, you can really see how people have put this into their advertising. So just to summarize, and then I'm really happy to take some questions if you've got any questions for me. It is really essential to use advertising claims to stand out against your competition. And I think, again, with supplements, it's more than ever. We see so many supplements on the market that say it has this ingredient that does this, and it has this ingredient that does this. But it's actually like, what is making your product so much more interesting? What are the consumers perceiving? Put that into our advertising. A well-designed study and questionnaire is so important. That body of evidence is so important. Make sure you're coming to the right people and getting those things designed for you. Don't get tripped up by health or medicinal claims. I didn't mention this, but it's a really important kind of thing to think about as well. Health, I was saying like health and beauty for supplements, something that really come hand in hand. That's great, but don't get tripped up into thinking that into making health claims or medicinal claims about those supplements that are not beauty claims or food claims, because medicinal is a whole different ball game. You need to go down the route of getting registered medicine and everything like that. Always ensure your data is compliant in the country you're selling in. So again, where I've mentioned that before, there are, different countries going to have different regulations about what you can say, because it is a food product, even though there's beauty claims there. Always present your evidence very clearly in your advertising. As we've kind of shown, consumers are really hungry for this data. They want to see as much of it as possible, and make sure that evidence is recent as well, and make sure you're really kind of transparent about what that evidence is. So has anyone got any questions? I can see one has come in. So yeah, feel free to start putting in questions. So I've had one in already to say, how does an Ayton supplement study differ from a normal cosmetic product study? How is the protocol designed differently, considering it's an ingestive product, rather than topical? Funnily enough, it's not really hugely different, unless, it depends really how you're looking at the approach. But in terms of a methodology, it's really, really similar. So if we're doing a supplement study, I'll still, get people we'll still recruit based on a target consumer. We'll still send products to people to test at home with the information to ingest it every day. It might just be that we have different ways of asking the question that's realistic in terms of what to perceive. So, if you put on a face cream, you might instantly look radiant, but that's not going to happen with a supplement. So I would say it's more, instead of the protocol of the study, it's more to do with the questionnaire. It's probably what we're looking at in more detail there. So like with any kind of questionnaire, what I'll look at is what are your research objectives and what are your claims, and then we'll structure the questionnaire around that. So yeah, the protocol tends to be very similar, apart from probably much longer for a supplement study than a cosmetic product. But the actual questionnaire design is really where the kind of skill really lies to make sure we can get the right claim substantiation. I hope that makes sense. Another question in, what is the recommended time frame for beauty supplement user trials, and is there a minimum time frame? There's no minimum. So with any study ever, it really depends on the client. It depends on you as a brand. What do you expect your product to achieve? If you think your supplement is going to have effects within 2 weeks, we can do a 2-week study. Do I think that's realistic necessarily based on my experience? Not really. A really common time frame for a beauty supplement study is between 3 and 6 months. They are quite long, but it has to be realistic. If you try and cut it short, and as I said, we've had it before where we've had clients that try and really reduce the time. Like, we need to launch this product, we need to do the study, we need to get the results. And actually, it's just not long enough for people to really understand those benefits. Obviously, we ask things at different time points as well. So as I've mentioned, we've done 6-month studies for supplements, but asked the users every month what their experience is. And then we might look at that and go, actually, at 3 months, they've really started to see those benefits, and we can use that data, and we're really happy with it. So it's as with any study, there's no right or wrong answer. Especially if you formulated the product, you know when that product's supposed to work, how it's supposed to work. Or if you're not sure, do a long study and find out. But yeah, for supplements, I would say 3 months is usually the norm there. So how do the EFSA claims work alongside the Ayton supplement study claim? So it depends really in terms of working alongside. You kind of use it all together. So I said, like, a body of evidence is really, really important for any kind of products. They're kind of different sort of claims, because one's perception and the other one is to do with the actual nutritional claims and everything like that. So it's kind of using it together, but they're going to be presented in different ways, if you know what I mean. But also, it's really important to understand what the benefits are of your product before we do that consumer trial. So as I mentioned before, having all of that information, like what is your product supposed to achieve, what the benefits supposed to be, that's the kind of thing you'll get from your nutritional or ingredient claims, and then we'll turn that into a study to do with what the perception of that is. Again, I've worded that really badly, but I hope that makes sense. I think there's a couple of questions in the chat. So are the claims tested still based on the effects of a cosmetic product can have on a body? Right, sorry, I'm going to read this again. Are the claims tested still based on the effects a cosmetic product can have on the body, i.e. still stay away from medicinal and health related claims, even with longer and more in-depth studies? Right, I'm with you. Absolutely. It's kind of the same rule. So don't say medicinal claims, and it should be, kind of a cosmetic product, right? Is about to do with cosmetic claim definition is to do about it kind of changing the appearance or helping the appearance of the skin and the hair and the nails. That's exactly the kind of thing we're looking at with the beauty claim, is like, what are the visual changes to your skin or your hair or your nails that you can see. That's what we're really focusing on. We don't want to say anything about, I don't know, I'm really bad at thinking of claims on the spot, but we don't want to say anything about like, I'm healthy, I feel better, I feel cured, I don't know, really coming up bad things. Okay, right, so let's use acne as an example, because that's a really good example for a medicinal claim for cosmetics. You couldn't say that the supplements have cured your acne. That wouldn't happen. But you could say that you're getting less frequent blemishes from using the supplements. Your skin's less oily, all of this kind of thing. So yeah, it's still very much the same kind of rule. Again, sorry, that kind of waffled on a bit, but I hope that's answered your question. So I think that's all the questions come in for now. So thank you very much, guys. Oh no, very quickly, there's 2 more. I'll answer these 2 and then we'll round up, because otherwise we can get around. But I will send out my contact information as well, to make sure that you can get hold of me if you've got any questions kind of like further on from this. So we've got another one saying, can we use normal user trial results from consumer perception studies as claims on pack, like you would for a topical cosmetic product? We've been told we can only use clinical trial data on pack. Okay, really interesting. You can use consumer trial data on pack, but when you've been told you can only use clinical trial data, it will depend on the claim that you are making. So as with any kind of product, there's about appropriate evidence, essentially. So if you're making if you're making product claims, sorry, I was reading your question again to make sure I got that right. If you're making any advertising claims on pack, if they are something that is a perception claim, then you can use your consumer perception data. If you do have kind of really strongly worded claims in there, it could be, for example, stronger hair. That to me is a claim that needs to be supported by clinical evidence as well as perhaps consumer perception, because a consumer can say, yeah, my hair feels stronger, but you might need to, because it's going on pack, you probably need some more detailed evidence about how strong it is, the kind of instrumental study that actually proves the hair has got stronger. Whereas if it's something like radiant skin, that's a consumer perception claim. That's something that a consumer can perceive. Yeah, I look radiant. So even if it's on pack, that could be supported by consumer perception data. This is something I can really help with, by the way. So this is something I really specialize in, is if you have kind of a target market and your way you want to present your claims and the claims you want to make, I can review those for you and give you some help in terms of the evidence you need behind those claims. Because again, otherwise I'm being hypothetical, and I think every claim and product is different. So it's really important to keep that in mind and be specific. So has Ayton conducted a user trial with beauty supplements in conjunction with an application of a cosmetic product? Would the claims achieved from this trial be able to support on claims on both packs? You can, you can combine a cosmetic and supplement. That's not a problem. You would just need to make sure that the product's going to be sold together. So this is the case, by the way, of any product. If you're going to test products together, you need to make sure they're being sold together, because the claims will be cumulative. So we want to make sure that it's a combination of using both those products that's having that effect. So yes, if you were to use cosmetic with the supplement, you wanted to say that by the combined use of those products you're having that effect, then you can do that. And you can put it on the pack, but again, it has to be very, very clear that that evidence comes from using those products together. You wouldn't be able to say the product on its own has that effect, because that's not how it was tested. So again, this is all about this transparency. However you test your products is how you should market it. So I hope that makes sense. So again, one last question, and then I'll go to sort of sum up the presentation. So if you aren't able to carry out consumer research in advance of your beauty supplements launch, what would be your top tip in regards to claims we should and can go after? So this happens quite often, by the way, where a lot of products, a lot of brands we work with have already had their product launch, and then they'll come back and get consumer research data to strengthen their campaign. So that can be done. So if you haven't obviously got consumer research data, it's just really important to make sure that you are being very, again, transparent about what that evidence is that you have in those claims. So when you say kind of what kind of claims can you go after, it just depends what evidence you have. So you can't really kind of stretch that to be anything it isn't. If you have evidence from the ingredient supplier and you've got enough of that ingredient and you've got it in the same delivery system, then you can use the claims that are on that ingredient, but you have to say it's the ingredient that has the effect and not your product. And that's about as far as you can go in my experience, unless you've got some other kind of evidence that I'm not sure of, in terms of what you can really say there. So yeah, if you can't get the evidence, that's fine. Do what you can with what you have, but do not try and push it to say it's anything above and beyond what you have. And actually, that's fine. Just make sure, again, it's really transparent. Otherwise, you can come under scrutiny there. So yes, I will be sharing my contact information, and I hope that's been really helpful. So thank you so much for all your questions as well. I always really appreciate it at the end of the webinar. It gets my brain working, even though it's been a bit spirally after my cold this week. So thanks for bearing with me as well. But just to summarize as well, before we go, we'll be sponsoring the IFSCC next year. So please do join us and make sure you register your interest for that now. That'll be in person in London. I have one last webinar for the year, which is going to be next week on the 10th, and it's all about making sexual health and wellness advertising claims. So obviously, sexual health and wellness has become a real part of the personal care industry. So we'll be looking at those types of claims in particular and making sure we've got the right evidence behind them. So there is my contact information, but as I mentioned, I will follow up with an email with the recording as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great to get some questions in as ever, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend and hope you can come to my webinar next week as well. Thanks.